Hey everybody, it's Romania Black. I'm pretty excited about this episode. Who knew that the shot of a character's ear could blow up Twitter like it has? If you don't know what I'm talking about, you should go on Twitter and just try to find Oikawa's ear. It's been an insane week of just absolute Twitter trolling and just all the Oikawa simps coming out of the woodwork. I'm one of them. I didn't share the ear, but I was like, I'm right here with you. I got my Alba Josai shirt on today. I've had my Oikawa mug for coffee. I have been waiting for this episode for a lot of different reasons, not just Oikawa, which from that preview, I'm assuming he's going to make a cameo this episode. Who knows? We're just guessing. I don't know, but that's what Twitter has been a buzz about in anticipation. So obviously, I've read the manga, so I have a couple other things I'm anticipating, but I've not gone back and reread it until after I watched this episode. So I'm just pretty excited. The last episode, man, Hinata's moment, just our ray of sunshine, getting all of the acclaim, all of the praise he deserves, except from Kageyama for that receive. That was just, it was Haikyuu when Haikyuu's at its best, when the writing is just on point and when the animation syncs up with it like it did last episode, it's so good and it's like such a feel good, like your heart feels better after watching that. That was great. But we are nearing the end of this match. I think it was 18-17. Like we're getting towards the end of this set and it's anybody's game at this point. In Arizaki versus Krasno, they've done 3 sets. It's been ongoing, and we're on episode 23. So we have this episode and then 2 more after it, and the season's over. I can't believe it. I feel like October was such a short time ago, and it's already been that long. So, man, but I'm excited for this episode. I hope y'all are too. My dog is down here wanting me to play with him, and I'm like, dude, we've played for so long so I could have you be calm during this. So I apologize if he's rambunctious, but he's feeding off my hyped energy. So anyway, we are going to start this episode 23, The Birth of the Serene King. We know who one king is, right? And that's our blueberry setter, so we'll see what happens. But we're going to start this episode here in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, let's go. Oh man, that episode's so good. So yeah, this match, I mean, we're going past the 25 mark here, clearly. It's the final set. Are we surprised? I mean, with a match like this, did we really think it was going to end at 25 points? No. What's surprising to me is just how quickly we've gotten there and how no one seems to really, it's not clicked. Because honestly, in the last couple of seasons, when we get to this part of a big important match like this, when we get to Alba Josai, to Date Tech, to Shiratorizawa, to any of the matches we've had before, once you get to that 24, 25 point mark, it's like time slows down and everybody notices and they're like, oh, it's the end of the match. Like it's all honed in. But this match has been going so fast paced and so back and forth and been so intense that it's like Karasuno and Inarizaki, they don't have time to process that it's match point. They're just treating it like, okay, it's a point we've got to keep the other team from getting. And I think that's why this sneaks up so fast, because during the episode I was like, oh crap, they're at 24. If they score this point, the match is over. It's like, it just creeps up on you in this episode, and then suddenly you're like, wait, if any team lets down for more than a second, the game's over. And I think that's a testament to how strong of a competitor Inarizaki is for Krasno, because they don't even have time to process. They're like, nope, we just can't let them score. And, oh man, the exhaustion setting in. Poor Suki. Suki is like, I need some bananas. I need some kind of carb, something, because he's at his limit. And just the teams going at it back and forth. I love that Kita gets to come back in this match. His whole speech is so good. So talking about, obviously there'll be a lot more in spoiler corner, but just talking about this episode in general, the idea of the captains, of Kita and Daichi, both representing the strong back of their players. Daichi, obviously, from day one, from season 1, Daichi has been that strong backbone of Krasno, where he doesn't stand out. Daichi does not stand out. He's not a star. He's not the ace. He's not the star. He's not flashy like Hinata. He's not a genius like Kageyama. But Daichi is the backbone. He is the foundation of that team. He's the captain. And the last episode and this episode, pulling his weight, like being the captain and making sure the team stays on track. I mean, they even noted, from Shiro Torizawa to now, they're like, man, if Daichi wasn't there, their defense would be full of holes. And it's like, yeah, Daichi's just always there. He's that ever-present force. And that's kind of what Kita is. Kita's not flashy. He doesn't stand out either, but he's going to stand behind the Mia twins. He's going to stand behind his fellow teammates to give them the receives and the backbone that they need as well. He's not going to be on the front lines making any crazy dumps or crazy spikes, but he's going to be there to help. And so seeing both of these captains have that position is really cool. And then I wanted to note towards the end of the episode, when Kita goes on his rant, which his rant is not a rant at all, it's just him monologuing. I'm like, a rant, really? He's just monologuing while the game's going on. But something really cool that he points out, we get Oikawa in this episode, which I did my best not to freak out, because I was like, I wanted to savor it. I haven't seen this guy since the end of season 3, so I'm like, I need to see Oikawa. So I was savoring that moment, that brief cameo we get from him. But I think it's interesting that we cameo Oikawa, and then Kita starts talking about geniuses and talking about the geniuses. And we all know Oikawa's deal is that Oikawa's not a genius. He's just really good at connecting with people and bringing out the best of his teammates. And he's worked really, really hard, as we've established throughout this entire show. He's worked really hard to get where he's at. And it looks like he's going to continue to do that. But Kita points out, he's like, once you've committed to the idea that somebody's a genius and that they're amazing and that you can't catch up to them, then there's no point you even trying. You've already cemented this in your memory. And he says it's rude. And that's such a cool connection. We're talking about captains and all this. Oikawa is the captain of Alba Josai. Him connecting to this, because that's kind of what Oikawa was saying at the end of season 2. He's like, your talent will bloom. Maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, maybe 30 years from now, but eventually if you cultivate it and you spend the time and work with it, your talent will eventually bloom, and you can polish your instincts to be prepared for that moment. And that was his whole gist in season 2. And so I love the tie-in with Kita saying basically the same thing. Because Oikawa's like, if you think you're not going to do it, you won't. And Kita's kind of the same way. He's like, if you think geniuses are going to automatically be better than you and there's no point in you catching up, then you won't. You won't catch up. So I really like that connection that Kita makes, where he's like, no, you can be strong and be powerful as a teammate. You don't have to be a genius. And then Hinata kind of proves that point further, because right after he says that, Kageyama tries to get the rebound on that one shot and the ball falls and Hinata hits it with his foot. And it's like, you don't have to be a genius for it to work. You just have to give your 120% and do the best of your capabilities and work with your team and hope that it works out. Because even the Mia twins, who are geniuses, or at least on Atsumo's end, they still miss their quick. They still make mistakes. They're all human. Kageyama was off on some of his tosses in this episode, even though, as Yukai points out, he's had an amazing game. Like, Kageyama's been on his game, which, fitting. If you got talent scouts there, why not? But, oh man. And of course Hinata's like, hey, you're going to keep tossing to me, right? And Kageyama's like, complain. And he's like, nope, I'm a ray of sunshine. Not going to happen. And I love that Atsumo's like, I'm moved. Like I'm moved by your tenacity. And then there's Tanaka. Tanaka having his moment part due. The second time where we finally get resolution on what did he ask Kageyama to do. And it makes sense, because Tanaka's like, I feel great. I've had a great game, but it's not working out. So he's like, Kageyama, just toss to somebody else. And Kageyama's like, no, I'm not. And I love that. It's the moment of Kageyama recognizing Yukai's words and saying, like, know your team's condition, know how far you can push them, and know what you can do. And he's like, no, you're going to hit this ball because you're having a good day. You're doubting yourself, and I don't doubt you. So I love it's this idea of trust, but also kind of a threat. He's like, I trust you. Do this for me and score us points because I have faith in you being able to do this. But also, you're not going to back down, right? And it's so fitting because it ties in with Oikawa being there too. Because Oikawa's whole thing, when he confronted Mad Dog, when he confronted his teammates, he's like, I have faith in you. That faith is a threat too. That trust is a threat. He's like, you're going to do good because I know you can do good. And Kageyama's doing the exact same thing. So how fitting that when that moment happens, we cut to Oikawa and he's just standing there having watched the entire game and has seen this moment happen. And you know that Oikawa has connected the dots. And he's watching that being like, crap, he's able to do now what I've been doing from the start. And now he's catching up to me. And so I love that he has that moment of recognition. And then he's like, I've got to work harder. I've got to run faster. I've got to get back into, because he's probably just jogging along, watching the game, not doing too much crazy stuff. And now he's like, rips out the headphones. He's like, I got to go start running now and get in shape. And I love that he tries to cover it. He's like, I don't want to look like a weirdo. And he's like, just this normal guy running. And the people are like, what a weirdo. Love it. Absolutely love it. But yeah, this whole episode, Kageyama, the birth of the Serene King, Kageyama accepting his role as king. And he even ordered Tsukishima around. He was like, no, you're not exhausted. It was my problem. Don't be down on yourself. Like, Kageyama recognizing himself as a leader and as the king. So good. It's Kalm Kageyama, the Serene King. It's like, bow down, bitches, because it's just so good. So good. But y'all, I've got some spoilers to talk about, and I want to get to those, but this episode was so good, and it just came out of nowhere that we're nearing the end of the set. Like, at this point, it's anybody's game. Anybody scores 2 points, it's done. So I have a feeling that next episode's going to be the conclusion, and we're going to round out with the final episode. I don't know, y'all, but oh, man. I'm so excited to see how we wrap this up. So anyway, if you're not staying for spoilers, I hope you all enjoyed this reaction and this discussion. Thank you all so much for watching. Please feel free to comment down below. Please tag for spoilers, but thank you all so much for watching. And next week's the penultimate episode of the season. So I'll catch you all then, and we'll watch episode 24 next week. So we're here, y'all. Spoiler corner time. 4 chapters in this, and they didn't get quite through chapter 286. We almost got through it. There's 2 pages that were left out, but I'm glad I didn't freak out as much. Internally, I was screaming when Oikawa showed up, but I'm glad because I wanted to see if they included some of the extras and stuff, which they did to an extent, but this is really good. So chapter 283, Faith, 284, 285, Birth of the Serene King, and then part of 286, The Threat of Trust. And that ties in perfectly. I forgot just how good chapters 285 and 286 were. I forgot because I was like, going back and rereading these, I'm like, man, But I talked about in the non-spoiler part, Kita's whole thing. I loved that these chapters all connected this idea of faith, the captains having faith in the future generation, ideas of trusting your teammates to handle your sets and handle the ball and being there for you when you need them, and then the threat that you're gonna do it, right? And it comes from so many fronts, like all the connectivity of these chapters and all the connectivity of these themes with one another. It's masterclass writing, and I love Furudate for putting this all together like this. So I've got some pictures that I'm gonna pull up from some of the chapters. Actually, to be honest, I know that we covered 4 chapters in this. It's all there. All the content's pretty much there. There wasn't anything really skipped. And I think most of these chapters go by fast because it's all action. It's all just back and forth. And I will say this, yes, the anime at times gives some weird facial expressions. Like Daichi looked a little off at the beginning of this episode, and I was like, But when it comes to the action and the fluidity, like the moves it goes so fast, and like the ball hitting and everything, I was like, okay, you got me. But this first picture up here from chapter 283, I love that we have in the background of Daichi hitting the back attack. I don't know if the anime quite got that, but the background of Daichi hitting the back attack is Crossnose banner of Fly, and then when Kita hits it hits the back of his banner, which is Who Needs Memories. And I love that shot of the ball just hitting that banner and just that boom. Like, and then both those captains looking at each other like, we know. Because it's either one of their last games. If for one of them, it's their last game. And in that moment, they're like, man, what do you do? So it's just, so good. 284, this chapter, I'm so glad they included this part of Shigeru I was like, they've not shown the other teams watching. They've just saved it for the ED. And it's like, it's fine. I'm okay with it. I get you don't want to break the momentum and the pace of the episode. But this was a huge part. Because Shigeru's like, I don't care if y'all are tired. I don't care. Try harder. Play harder. Like, he's such a Karasuno stan in this moment. And you can tell, kind of like Goshiki and them are all watching. But these teams watching are teams that Karasuno has beaten. Teams that Karasuno has beat to get to that point in nationals. So, of course, they are invested in Karasuno winning, because if Karasuno wasn't there, it could have been any one of them. I mean, probably would have been Shiratorizawa, let's be real. But Shigeru's like, damn it, we lost to y'all in Inner High. We lost to y'all. We should have been there. If we can't be there, y'all better step up your game and win this match. So it's like, I love Shigeru's passion. And I love him, like him being the future setter of Alba Josai. I'm like, dude, you're setting the stage. We don't ever really get confirmation of who is captain after Oikawa left. In my head canon, I like to think that Shigeru steps up, because we find out, in the time skip, that Shigeru becomes a PE instructor. So I like the idea that he's a teacher, that he becomes this leader figure. So in my head canon, Shigeru steps up and becomes captain. That's just me. That's what I'm thinking. And I love the idea of Goshiki and Subaru watching too. It's so good. But yeah, Kageyama's like, no, I'm not gonna not set to you. I'm gonna do it, and you're gonna hit the ball. Like the Serene King indeed. And then, man, I know that I get a little thirsty for Atsumu's thighs in some of these panels, but can we appreciate Kageyama here too? Kageyama's doing the splits here in some of these sets too, especially in this one right here, to toss to Hinata. And then, man, the ball goes down and you think that Inarizaki's not going to get it after that quick. And then Atsumu's just like, let me limbo for you and knock it back up. And it's like, man, just so good. So good. And just back and forth. And both teams, neither of them letting up, even though you know that they're tired. And it's just the panels here are just so action-packed. It's so good. And I love that we get the focus not only on Kageyama, but Atsumu as well. Because these are two, if we're talking about genius setters, the geniuses are Atsumu and Kageyama, like just naturally good players that just, it comes so naturally to them. And I know that they work hard, and it's established that they've worked hard to get to this point, but they're geniuses. Like, it's so good. Like, those sets, those moves, some people that practice a long time couldn't pull that off. And then, yeah, getting back to that mountain. The one thing I will notice about this episode, I was a little thrown off by, is that Crunchyroll, and I don't know if it's just the translation, but the dialogue, I felt like Tanaka said, he's not encouraging me. He's telling me he has faith. But I feel like the one part that was left out of that is that it's also a threat. And that ties into Oikawa being like, you're going to do this, right? Show them why I have faith in you. And it's like, that's the threat. Like, prove to me why I'm trusting you with this. And that straight shot's so good. So good. And then the panel, the Serene King being like, I had faith in you. Thank you for proving me right. And everyone notices, and even Atsumu's like, hey, where was the goody two shoes? You're not trying to appease everybody, you're making them listen to you. What's this? How did you change in this short amount of time? It's only been a few weeks. And it's like, it's because he's a genius. And I will point out in this lovely panel here that the ear shot from the preview, it's been there all along. It was that panel shot in the corner. It's always been there, waiting to come into that preview. But then we get this shot. And I'll point out, in the anime, I don't think they quite captured Oikawa's expression, which is why I've put it up here. They got his expression running away, and him being like, hurp! But this shot here, and somebody's noted this on Tumblr as well and Twitter, and I want to point it out too, that this is the real Oikawa in this moment. Somebody pointed out, they're like, this is not the fancy, like him running around trying to blow it off as, I'm not weird. No, it's fine. That's not the real Oikawa. This is the real Oikawa, when he realizes that Kageyama is getting to his level. And if we've established anything about Oikawa is one of my favorite characters because of how relatable he is. He's his pride and him being like, no, I'm not going to take this sitting down. I'm not going to let you beat me. No, I'm not a genius, but I'm not going to let you surpass me. And just his petty pride. God, I love him. And this moment here, that's such a beautiful panel where he's just like realizing, I've got more work to do. Because as we come to find later, Oikawa exercising, I know some people might be questioning, they're like, well, he was just going on a jog. I mean, he's a third year. His volleyball career is over. No. If we find out later that Oikawa had already at this point signed on to go play in the Argentinian league. Like, he'd already signed on. Like, he was already planning to go there as this is happening. So he's still training. He's still working on getting better. And now he's realizing, oh, Kageyama is getting to my level, and he's probably going to go to the pro leagues as soon as he graduates in a few years, and I need to be on top of my game. And so I love that idea that he just puts the headphones away and he's like, screw it. I don't care what the results of this game are. I've got to get back in shape here. And then, of course, I love that they include this little extra at the end of the chapter where he's like, oh, I don't want people thinking I'm weird. And then, of course, everybody's like, you're still weird. He's like, see, I'm just your average hot guy out for a jog who happens to be good at humming. And they're like, Mom, he's weird. And she's like, yes, goodness, he is. Because Oikawa doesn't want to admit it, but he is our trash king. We love our grand king. We love him. But a great cameo. I love it. And then chapter 286. It's not just, it's a two-way street. It's not just Kageyama's trust in Hinata or in Tanaka, but it's Hinata's trust in threat to Kageyama that you're going to give me the ball too, right? You're not going to slack off, right? So I love this page, and they kind of cut it off. So I'm hoping at the start of next episode they pick it back up with Atsumu. I hope that they do, because Atsumu, they just give us the point of it here, like the ending of it. I hope that they start with that next episode where Hinata's like, give me the next one, and Kageyama's like, I'm not the one pushing people past their limits. People are pushing me past my limits, not just my opponents, but my teammates too. And I love this by Atsumu, where Atsumu is saying, it doesn't matter if it's short or if it's low. He doesn't care if it's too close to the net. If his setter is giving his all, putting the ball up, he'll take it every time. And for Atsumu, that's perfect. That's all Atsumu wants. He's like, I just want you to be able to hit every set that I give you. And Hinata's like, pick me! I volunteer as tribute. And it's such a great foreshadowing, because eventually Atsumu going to be his setter. And it's like their match against Misby, where Atsumu like, I can give you any toss and you're going to hit it. It's like a match made in heaven. I know that there's Kagehina stands. I know there's Atsuhina. For me, I'm a multi-shipper. I can ship him with... Hinata's shippable with anybody, but this is like the setup. This is such a great foreshadowing for the Atsuhina dynamic of Hinata's going to hit whatever you give him as long as it's to him. And Atsumu's like, oh, challenge accepted. And I love the fact that he's like, I moved Shoyo-kun. And I love the fact that in the preview for next episode, it was our little Atsuhina crumb. It was that shot of Atsumu and Shoyo next to each other in the preview. So I'm hoping that the next episode picks up where this lets off at. That's my hope anyway. But yeah, the episode ended, there's just a page and a half left of chapter 286. So it was the game resuming and Suna being like, man, he's just getting sharper and sharper. And then this is where Monster's Ball comes from, is Kita's like, they're like, these guys are monsters. And Kita's like, isn't it great? We were invited to a Monster's Ball. Isn't it the luckiest thing? And they're like, Kita, you're insane. And then just Atsumu's just that muscle shot of him. Mwah. Mm. And then, yeah, him serving again. Serving where it is set point, match point. So good. So good. There's so much that connected in this episode and that ties into the future, and it's wonderful. I know I've rambled, y'all, but this was just such a good episode. And setting up so many things. Setting up Oikawa's journey as it continues. Setting up Kageyama becoming the king, the Serene king. Setting up Hinata and Atsumu. The foreshadowing. It's like, rereading this chapter, I was like, oh my gosh. Yeah, Furodaki was like, Atsumu's slow descent into pining over Hinata. It's like, yeah, you're really foreshadowing this, aren't you? And he sure is. And the Monster's Ball, the Monster Generation. So good, guys. So yeah, I'm fully convinced that next episode we're going to get either to the conclusion or right up to the conclusion, because we'll finish chapters 286. The match ends on 290, so it's 286, 287, 288. So either we're going to get to the end next episode, or we're going to lead into the end at the beginning of episode 25. I'm so sad that the season's ending. But I'll be honest, y'all, and I'll talk about this in the next couple episodes. The best is yet to come. I love this match. In the manga, this match is amazing, and the anime's been fine with it. It's it's pretty much the longest match in the manga, chapter-wise. But I mean, I like it. Don't get me wrong. But for me, my favorite moments in this entire series have not even been animated yet. So I'm just like along for the ride at this point, like maniacally wringing my hands, like being like, the anime onlys have no clue. So I hope you all like this reaction. I hope you all enjoyed this episode. Please feel free to comment down below. Please no spoilers, but I'm so excited to talk to you all about this. But next week, penultimate episode 24. Cannot wait. So in the meantime, have a wonderful week. Please stay safe, take care, and I'll talk to you all again soon. Bye.